a painful breakup,
Mourn and move on, which I'm like, God, that's easier said than done.
and a promise.
You didn't miss it, and it's not too late, and now I'm going to bring you my best.
CBN's Wendy Griffith says it was worth the wait.
I didn't think it would take this long, but now that it has happened, I love God's timing.
Plus, a beautiful marriage with a tragic ending. Hear how author Jonathan Pitts is coping with his loss and the legacy of love his wife Wynter left behind. He joins us live on today's 700 Club Interactive. Well, welcome to the show. The waiting is the hardest part. It's a familiar line from a Tom Petty song. And after waiting 3 decades to find and marry her true love, Wendy Griffith would agree.
Well, if you watch the 700 Club, you'll know that Wendy just returned from honeymooning in Africa. As CBN's Unhooked campaign continues, Ashley Key sat down with the new bride to find out if it was worth the wait.
Well, Wendy Griffith, we are so happy to have you be a part of our Unhooked, Holy in a Hookup World campaign. Seriously, thank you so much for being here with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm excited about this, Ashley.
Yes,
Thanks for
and
having me.
Of course, congratulations are due because you just got married. She's married. Yay! So you wrote a book called
You Are a Prize to Be Won, Ashley.
Yes.
Don't settle for less than God's best.
I am not. And that is something that is so true to your life, and that's why I wanted to talk to you today, because I know you have such wisdom to share for all of the single ladies and gentlemen out there as well. But you also walked through a lot of heartbreak before you met your Prince Charming, who is now your husband. So briefly talk a little bit about that and how you were able to really get over that, and maybe some advice for those out there who are still struggling to get over a breakup.
Yeah, it is the hardest thing I ever went through, Ashley. I'd had other relationships and other breakups, but this breakup, God let me feel everything, you know? And I thought he was going to ask me to marry him, and at the end of a year, because girls, I think we think, okay, he's going to propose at the 1-year mark, and then I can start planning the wedding, and I'd already been shopping for honeymoon sites. It was ridiculous. So, and so at the end of 1 year, he says, God says I have to give you back, and I'm like, I was just floored. I didn't understand that at the time, and the pain that I went through though was so surprising, and I remember just month after month of just this horrible pain in the pit of my stomach, and just like, is this ever going to end? Yeah. What really saved me during this time after the breakup was the Word of God, but also the Rhema words of God. And I remember the Lord speaking to me about 6 months after the breakup, this season will end. I heard him say, mourn and move on, which I'm like, God, that's easier said than done. Yeah. You're like, God, this pain, it hurts so much. You've got to tell me, did I mess up? I probably went through a year of blaming myself. I'd only said this or worn that or done this or looked different on that date. No, he would have walked away. She would have walked away. But what I heard during this painful time was, you didn't miss it, and it's not too late, and now I'm going to bring you my best.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. So with the Unhooked campaign, we are encouraging people to do a 40-day intimacy fast, or AKA just pressing the pause button on dating, to really just focus on the Lord and allow themselves to be filled with God first and foremost. You had a large chunk of time where you were single.
Oh yeah,
so
not dating at all.
Let's talk about the wait, because you said that you are an expert on the waiting game.
I can write a book on that, and Chris and I have. It is the hardest part. I'm not going to lie.
Well, how did you not lose hope in that season of waiting?
You make a decision that I'm going to believe the promises of God, that I think it was Mary in the Bible said, I believe that it's going to happen to me just the way the Lord said it would. And no matter what the circumstances are, no matter how many people aren't calling you, no matter how many dates you're not going on, you still choose to believe. And I decided early on I was going to enjoy my single life as long as it lasted, because I knew my single life was a gift. And you do get to spend more time with the Lord, and those times were really sweet. And I would say to the Lord, God, you're not giving me a boyfriend or a husband right now, so give me another mountain to climb.
Yeah.
So I really got into climbing. And he did. He gave me Kilimanjaro.
Wow.
He gave me Everest Base Camp. He gave me Inca Trail to Machu Picchu. After Machu Picchu, I met Bill.
Wow. You are very adventurous. And as you just said, your singleness was a gift and you had fun.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people in our culture today believe that because you are single, you're not living a fun, abundant, rich life, which is actually the complete opposite of what God's word says.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone out there who believes that their life is boring because they're single?
Well, it's really up to them. I mean, you've got to make the decision. I'm going to pursue my passions. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to wear that red dress. I'm going to go out with my girlfriends. I'm going to celebrate, or your red high heels, whatever it is. Wear your red dress now.
Wear it.
Or maybe it's a green dress. Maybe it's a black.
Or
I don't know.
it's a suit, guys.
Maybe it's
if
a
it's
suit.
a nice suit.
Maybe
wear
it's
the
that.
suit.
During that waiting period of until you met your husband, was it hard to stay pure? Because that was a conviction that the Lord had put on your heart to wait until marriage to have sex. Was that hard for you?
In my 20s, before I came to the Lord, I was in the world and, in every which way. And it was so empty. And there were so many heartbreaks. And I was so tired of that feeling of not being valued that I said, so in one way, it wasn't hard. When you meet the right one, he was cool with it. Now, if you meet somebody and they're not cool with it, they're not the right one. But he was like, I'm on board.
Wow.
Bill was like, okay, we can wait. So you need to find that person that understands your convictions are important to you, even if they don't understand them. Of course, there were times where it was like, can't we just get married already? Can't we just go down to justice of the peace, But it was worth the wait. And I dedicated my book, I said to my future husband, I know you'll be worth the wait. And that was all in faith. And a couple years went by. And I said, okay, Lord, I've dedicated this book, I really need you to. And, but God is so faithful. Bill didn't come in the package that I thought he was going to come in. In fact, it wasn't love at first sight at all. A friend fixed us up, and I was like, he's nice, and maybe we'll run into each other again someday, But he pursued me. Like, I didn't really respond right away, but when Bill sent me a nice text, or he followed up with a phone, even if I didn't text back, he followed up with a phone call a couple days later. He really did it in the right way. What happens to a woman's heart, see, we're made to be pursued. So when you pursue us, our heart just sort of like slowly opens, and then we start thinking, oh, maybe I should go out with them again.
The rest is history, as they say. So, what word of advice, prayer, lasting word of wisdom would you give to single Christian men and women of your generation?
Of my generation, so like older Christians who've been waiting a long time. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Don't give up. Listen, good things can happen late in the game, and I always believed it would happen. I didn't think it would take this long, but now that it has happened, I love God's timing. I've got 30 years of broadcasting behind me. I've been on so many adventures. So don't despise the season you're in. Love being single right now. God says, delight yourself in me, and I will give you the desires of your heart. I would just say enjoy the journey. Don't rush it. Trust God. Stay pure. And enjoy being single.
Yeah. Wendy, thank you so much for being here with us and sharing all the wisdom and advice. It's good stuff. And I just continue to pray blessings over your marriage and over you and Bill. So
thank you. I receive it. God bless you. Thanks, Ashley.
Thank
it was
you
fun.
so much. Thank you.
Well, God is so good, and we are so happy to see Wendy so happy. And what a great guy Bill is, can I just say. I don't even know him, but I watch him. It's a girl thing.
I know. One of the things that really impressed my father was he delayed the wedding because it was hunting season. And so he said, and going to the wedding, it was such a joy for Wendy, for her family.
Oh my goodness,
and,
yes.
What a great time, beautiful wedding. And the singular moment was in the reception where they're getting ready for their first dance, and it dawned on her. Wendy said, "Oh, I have a husband now." It was,
Yes.
the years of waiting
Yeah.
had finally come to an end. I now have a husband.
So a great word, never give up. But also, I think another great word in that was to love your singleness. There are seasons in our lives where God has something purposed for us that we might be totally unaware of. And, we watched Wendy walk that out with such grace. And lots of times you don't know, is that going to change? But God,
Well,
this
I
is...
think within the Christian community, we've got to come to the realization being single is not a disease. It's not
Amen.
something you
Yeah.
get over or get
Yeah,
cured
or
of.
through. Yeah.
And that, somehow you're not incomplete if you're on your
Yes.
own. The Apostle Paul called it a great gift. And so realize, yes, it is a gift.
Yeah, spouses don't complete us, Jesus does. Well, if
That's
you're...
the voice of experience, by the way.
Yes. 38 years this year, just saying. Okay.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. If you're single and you could use some godly wisdom when it comes to relationships, I'd like to encourage you to go to cbn.com/unhooked and sign up for our free devotional. In this 40-day devotional, you're going to find answers to questions about sex, dating, and lots more. You can also get it by calling our toll-free number, which is 1-800-700-7000. Just ask for our free Unhooked devotional. I think you'll really find it to be a blessing.
Well, last July, Wynter and Jonathan Pitts finished the manuscript for a book on marriage. And then 4 hours later, Wynter died in her husband's arms. After the break, Jonathan shares how he is dealing with her unexpected passing and how their love story continues to help others. He joins us live. That's up next.
Wynter Pitts was the niece of Dr. Tony Evans and the mother of actress Elena Pitts and 3 other beautiful daughters. She was also the founder of a ministry called For Girls Like You, as well as a magazine by the same name. And then last July, just after finishing a book on marriage with her husband, Wynter suddenly died.
We had a 15-year journey. And in those 15 years, we realized what it looked like to not be perfect, but to be really intentional about our marriage.
Jonathan and Wynter Pitts celebrated their 15-year anniversary in 2018. Less than a month later, Jonathan turned in the final manuscript for their latest book. 4 hours later, Wynter took her last breath in her husband's arms.
Our marriage isn't lacking in significance. That has eternal significance that goes beyond our 15 years as well.
In their book, Emptied, Jonathan shares their take on happily ever after and how their love story continues to help others, even in the face of loss and tragedy.
What a bittersweet story. And Jonathan is here with us today. I mean, this is so rawly recent that I can't imagine watching that video if I were you. But the book is a legacy of both of you and the history of the time that you had together and the family that you built. How are you and your girls doing?
Yeah, we're doing well. I think we're doing as well as any family
can
that's
be.
gone through that,
Yeah.
but with the hope of the Lord and
Yeah.
just what we have to hold on to.
Your wife was only 38 when she went to be with the Lord, and it was unexpected. What happened?
Yeah, she had a heart murmur, which is it's a pretty normal thing, but for some reason her heart murmur caused her heart to stop, and she just quickly, suddenly, but really actually peacefully went into the arms of her Savior. And,
Wow.
Super sudden, had no idea.
How did you and the girls get through those first few months? It's one thing if someone is sick and you have time to contemplate the fact that this, might be the end of life for them. But when something happens so suddenly, it's almost like waking up from a bad dream. Did that really happen? How have you handled that?
Yeah, I had every one of those feelings, but I think back, people ask me, how are you doing this? And Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through him who gives me strength. I realize that scripture is not just for coffee cups. It's the reality of Christ in me, the hope of glory. Like, I have his strength inside of me, and it's not me, it's God. I say it over and over again.
So here you are on the program with us today, and really the purpose isn't because of what happened in the death situation of a wife you dearly love, but because of a book you wrote together, a book about marriage. So the book is called Emptied. You and Wynter wrote this together. What did she hope to accomplish through this book? What was her heart for it?
Yeah. Well, we wrote the book actually to a couple of friends of ours that we mentored. They lived with us for a summer, that we were mentoring them in life and in marriage, and we had no idea that we were at the time. But we wrote the book specifically to them as a young couple with young kids, and we wrote to them just very honest, open about our issues. And so we tried to write in a way where we're just telling our story, sharing our story of what it looked like to be emptied of all the things that we were kind of full of, so that God could fill us with the things He wanted to fill us with. But we did it. It's a lot of story and a lot of journey through our ups and downs and everything else.
Well, just getting emptied is a lot of journey.
It's a process.
Right there. You write, from a gospel perspective, there's only one purpose for marriage. What is that?
Shucks, I'm trying to remember what I wrote down in there. It would be oneness, really, just oneness. I mean, you look in the book of Genesis, and it's just a reality that's there, and it's a reality throughout the whole Bible. But just oneness, that our me can become we.
Yes, and you know the me is probably what we all struggle with from the beginning to the end. You know, getting rid of that selfishness and making we the greater goal. What were some of the biggest struggles you guys had with regard to that?
Yeah, I mean, in one way, we brought some of our sins into that, which we talk about in the book. We brought expectations, some healthy, some not so healthy. We also brought just the reality of when you're a person kind of being formed, like you have all these things that aren't even necessarily bad things, that are things that just aren't prioritizing your spouse. So one of the parts of emptying yourself is, what does it look like to empty yourself of the things that aren't bad, but are getting in the way of you loving your wife or loving your spouse wholeheartedly and fully? For me, that was like golf and sometimes football and different things, but lots of things.
Sports in general, So talk about what it means to be emptied. I mean, can we ever really get there, or is the process, you know, the goal, and we just keep moving?
Yeah. Well, the book comes from Philippians 4:7, or 2:7. Although Jesus was equal with God, He didn't take His equality with God as something to be grasped, but took on the form of a servant, humbling Himself, and become obedient to death, even death on a cross. So I think it looks like humility, looks like servanthood. It looks like obedience, like just these words that are just powerful words in that verse that just basically call us, it's the life of Christ. It's being like Christ. So those things right there. So.
There are some places in the book where you're very honest also about your disagreements. And I think that can be such a divisive thing if it's not handled right. I mean, things get said and done that have lasting impact on a relationship and its health. How did you and Wynter learn to handle differences, and especially when you felt strongly about them?
Yeah, I mean, one, just leaning into what we knew God was calling us to do. So, like, that typically looked like me being quieter when I wanted to be louder, and it looked like her engaging when she wanted to withdraw, because that was our natural tendency. Hers was to withdraw, and mine was to get more, just more words, more forceful, all that.
Let's talk about this.
And so it looked like us doing the opposite of what we did naturally. And that's really the call of the kingdom. Like, the kingdom is doing the opposite, typically, of what you feel like you're supposed to be doing. Just like Jesus. I mean, to save us, He went to the cross, Like, it was the exact opposite of what anybody would think that He should be doing to save. At the time, the Jews are thinking their Savior's going to look like something else, and He comes and He dies. So it looks like us dying. If you're not dead yet, then you're not done. Then you're not done in your marriage, because the reality is the call is to day by day.
Die daily.
That sounded harsh, but it's day by day servanthood, and day by day looking like Christ. Which for Him it was dying for our sins, and for us it's giving up of ourselves for our spouses.
You were counseling, as you wrote this book, a couple who obviously were both willing to work at it. What do you say to somebody when they're in an unequally yoked scenario or married to someone who's not really ready to do the die thing? What do you do?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Bible would encourage that person. I'm not going to give the reference for the scripture because I can't remember off the top of my head, but to live in a way that honors Christ, in hopes that you would draw your spouse to Christ. So it's still the same thing. It's still serving. It's still humility. It's still all that. Obviously, if you're in an abusive relationship, that's a whole different thing. But if you're in a marriage, unequally yoked, the call, if you're not in an unsafe place, is to continue to be a witness for Christ, which looks the same when you're as being equally yoked as it is unequally yoked.
That's kind of the double sacrifice, isn't it? Where the reward is not present at the time. What do you want for your daughters? I mean, they had such an amazing woman to look up to as their mom. You're kind of carrying the load, my friend, at this point. What do you think Wynter would want for them, and what do you as a dad intend to walk out before them?
Well, I mean, honestly, I want them to see God's hand all through the story, all through our story, because it's there. Like, if they look close enough, they will see God's hand and really God's providence. He's done so much and so many different things, like me turning this book in the day that she died, which was just this reminder to me that God gets to decide when the book is open, and He gave me the gift, and He gets to decide when to take that gift back to Him. And the same is true for them. Like, my wife wrote books for tween girls, so they'll never be at a loss for what she spoke about them, what she spoke about God, what she spoke about our family, our marriage, our parenting. So just that they'd be hopeful about that. And then also that they would just be strong, like that they would just be strong in the Lord. And I'm already excited because they really are already strong in the Lord. And Wynter had the opportunity to watch all of them give their lives to Christ and all of them be baptized. So I'm glad that she got to see that. Yes. And I'm excited to see them walk that out for whatever purpose God has for their lives.
Yeah, I'm sure as they understand the rich legacy that they have, that will be a catalyst to them in that journey. What an amazing story you have, and what humility and vulnerability you've shared it with in the book Emptied. It's all about how we can have a fullness of marriage and a poured out relationship with the one that we love. So get a hold of it. It's available wherever books are sold. And thank you so much. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
God bless you. Gordon?
The after effects of ISIS are still felt by many Christian refugees around the world. See how one Iraqi family was forced to flee to Jordan only to experience hunger and hardship. Find out how Operation Blessing came to their rescue when we come back. Sandra's family of 9 fled from Iraq to Jordan because they are Christians. And in their new home, the family was barely able to afford one meal a day until Operation Blessing came to their rescue.
Sandra and her brothers and sisters have struggled to survive as Christian refugees ever since their family was brutally attacked by ISIS.
Masked men with guns broke in the door of our home in Mosul. They beat me over the head, then they handcuffed me and threw me into a hole in the ground. They locked me in to die.
They told me they were going to kill my husband as they dragged him away. I thought I lost everything, so I just sat on the floor and cried.
Wissam was held captive in the hole for 3 days with no food or water. Then, American and Iraqi forces rescued him, and he was reunited with his family. They made their way to Amman, Jordan.
I have nothing. The government won't let us have regular jobs, and I spent everything I had to get us away from ISIS.
We can only feed our children 1 meal a day, and they can't go to school because we don't have money to register them. It's unbearable seeing them go without. But I have faith in Jesus. That's something ISIS could not take away from me.
After Operation Blessing learned about their problems, we took Wissam grocery shopping for meat, rice, and fresh fruits and vegetables. We also got the family powdered milk, diapers, and other things for the baby.
My refrigerator was completely empty, and we didn't know how we would get food. Now my children have good things to eat.
We also found out the whole family was freezing in their bare floor apartment during the winter. So we bought them carpet and a gas heater they can also use for cooking. And we got the kids new winter clothes.
Before we were super cold, and now it's much better.
Sandra and her brothers and sisters were enrolled free of charge at our Operation Blessing-funded Christian school.
I love the school so much. My favorite part is learning about Jesus and how to be a good Christian.
My husband and I are so proud of them. We are all very grateful for this opportunity.
Wissam helps out around the school, and in return, we help him with his expenses. With the support of Operation Blessing, Sandra's family is doing much better than before, and their hope has been restored.
My children now have a chance for a good future, and you have helped me forget the problems of the past. I pray you will be blessed by God.
Jesus sent you to us, and I'm very thankful. I'm so happy to have you in our lives.
Thank you for all the help you've given my family. It makes my heart feel glad knowing that you think about us.
And thank you. If you're a member of the 700 Club, you're part of blessing that family. If you're not a member, I invite you to join with us, and you can join with tens of thousands of people that say, yes, let's make a difference in the world. Let's reach out with hands of love and compassion to people around the world. If that's you, give us a call, 1-800-700-7000. Just say, I want to join the 700 Club. How much is it? Well, it's just $20 a month. That breaks out to just 65 cents a day. But it's wonderful when we all join together what can happen. Now, if you want to designate a gift to help persecuted Christians in the Middle East, we have a special fund set up on a website. It's ob.org. That's the Operation Blessing website. And you can go to the giving page there, and you can find something called the Giving Catalog. And in that catalog, you can designate a gift to persecuted Christians, or you can just do it on the phone and say, I want to give to help persecuted Christians around the world. 1-800-700-7000. Here's a verse for you from Proverbs. The name of the Lord is a strong fortress. The godly run to him and are safe. So call on his name today. His name is salvation. God bless you. We'll see you again.